Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for being here. To all the subscribes and stuff. Anyway, I just watched a video from Icy Mike about how it sucks in jiu-jitsu for smaller people, smaller, weaker people. And that's not, I don't disagree with that. It's definitely harder. I'm not a smaller, weaker person, so it's even hard to, initially take my word probably, but allow me to continue. So I'm like 6 feet and probably 170, 165, 170, depending on the day, how much water I've drank, how many poops I take. But yeah, so I'm not a small person, but there are a bunch of people at our gym who are fucking huge. So and not huge and fat, huge and athletic, huge, who can really really do some damage. So in my experience, one of the things that helps me to beat those people is that if my technique is good enough, and when I say technique, what I mean is like my fundamental conceptual technique, like my base and my connection and how closely I can pay attention to what that person's going to do, and my sensitivity to that person, because if I can force them to make any kinds of explosive movements, like even several times, their bodies are just bigger and require more energy to do explosive movements like that. So they only have, it's kind of like, one of those, like a fighting game where you have like a meter at the bottom where you can only do a huge one of those, fight-ending movements maybe once or twice, and then that's it. You gotta wait for that shit to fill back up. So as a person who is smaller than people at the gym who are like 6'5" and 230, but like an athletic 230, yeah, we have people like that. Against someone like that, you don't have to overpower them at all. You just have to be in exactly the right place at exactly the right time whenever they do their explosive movement, so that their energy bleeds off into a useless place. And if you get them to do that several times, then you can kind of you start to do what you want, because once someone's tired out, they can't do anything to you. And I believe the phrase is cooking the beans. I just Googled it. I found one Reddit thread that even mentioned that. So I don't know if people say it, they just don't. No one ever talks about it. But cooking the beans, I think the phrase is like sometimes it takes all day or all night to cook the beans. But yeah, so just like, it's not a matter of being faster because you're smaller. It's a matter of being in a place, in a position where you can survive any kind of explosive movements from your larger, stronger opponents, because their bodies just require more energy to do those things than you do. And if you conserve, if you have like 98% of your tank left, whenever this person has like 30% of their tank left, then you have a massive advantage. Especially if you can, if you're a smaller person, you knock the larger person over and they're on the ground, and you can still move and you have all your energy left, that's going to be a huge problem for them. Because if someone's on the ground, think about trying to, even if someone only weighs 100 pounds, think about a kettlebell that weighs 100 pounds, and even if you're a big person, if you're on the ground already and you're tired, think about trying to lift that 100-pound, move it around at all. Like, the kettlebell's not fighting you. So just keep that in mind. Even a really small adult human who is 120 pounds, if you have your weight arranged where it should be, it can be very difficult to move you. So this is all about base and connection, and I'm not going to go into that stuff. That's different videos. Check out the different playlists for that. And check out Hickson and Henry Akins and all the people who know way more about all that than I do. But yeah, so that's my take on BJJ being. It certainly is harder at the smaller you get. I'm not arguing that at all. Totally correct. But I will say that, just think about how heavy a human being is, and if that weight is in the right place, it can be very tiring. When you think about even little kids when they don't want to do something, like Paul Rudd in Wet Hot American Summer, he's just dead fishing it. It's hard to move dead weight. So anyway, if you can put your dead weight in the right place at the right time, you can beat some larger people.
So we're talking about like the skill being relatively equal because right, that's what we're like using as our baseline. So like you know, like I do think like generally size would matter in jiu-jitsu with skill being equal, but if skill is not equal, like a smaller person with skill can absolutely beat a larger person without skill. But if skill is equal, does that mean the larger person's always going to win that equal matchup? And I would say, you know, that's more of a complex question. I don't think there's like a general baseline, like you'd be like, oh yeah, the bigger person's always going to win. I think it depends on like the style in which they do their jiu-jitsu. For example, if you play a style similar to mine, where, you know, a lot of like emphasis on being on top, pressure, stuff like that, and where my weaknesses are as well as like being on bottom, I'd consider my weakness. Then yeah, size really matters in a stylistic game like mine. But people who play more of like a flexible like guard, honestly, sometimes I feel like being smaller can be an advantage because they can fit into those small places that they need to fit into, and it really complements that style, you know? So I can think of times of, you know, where I'm going against people who I consider of equal skill, where I feel like, man, this smaller person has an advantage over me because I just can't seem to get past the legs because their little tiny legs just fit into all these crevices. So, you know, there's that, but like, I would say that more often than not, though, an equal footing, that size, like the larger person, like has the advantage.
Sure. So I'll let you know. I'll say what I said earlier about myself. So my thought was that it's not necessarily so energy comes into it too. Like how much energy does someone's body take to move?
Oh yeah, that's
right.
A good point too. Yeah.
So like think about like some of our larger guys. Yeah. Even guys who are like athletic and large, like not just like big, but actually like big fucking like athlete type dudes. Like they don't have as much of that dark side like explosive tank.
Right, yeah.
Because it just takes more energy for them to move. So like if you're a person who can force them to do that, then you can make them tired, and that's a big part of it, I think.
I can't believe I like airballed on that like portion of it, because that's actually like a strategy that I try to implement in matches in which I am smaller. Like if I'm sometimes competing up in a weight class, sometimes if like my students are in the same division as me, I'll move up a weight class, you know. Recently, like I did a tournament in Cleveland, and instead of doing the 185-pound division, I did 210-pound division because we had some people in the 185-pound division, and I wanted them to have, you know, their shot at it. And like my strategy does change, you know, and it changes to using that as my advantage. Like I'm gonna push a pace because I'm gonna tire them out, you know. Whereas whenever I was fighting, I would employ the exact opposite strategy. I was known as rather large for the 155-pound weight class. Had a significant weight cut, so I knew that like maybe my tank wouldn't match some of these other guys' tanks, so I'd find places to slow it down, kill some clock, or like where I wouldn't need a high energy output. So then it comes into like strategy, like in that, like for example, like what you're saying, bringing to attention the, like it costs the energy, right? Well, if I'm the big guy and I understand that it costs the energy, you're the small guy and you understand you're going to try to promote me to use that energy, and I'm going to try to proceed in ways that it's not costing me, right? So then it becomes like strategy, like there, and like who can get to those positions, right? If you can force like those positions of scrambles where I'm going to now need to move or else I lose, then you're employing the strategy that's going to allow you to deplete my energy tank, which we're assuming that there's the advantage there. Whereas if I can just like, you know, like maybe get into a close guard on top and like just burn some clock there, you know, then my size advantage is definitely going to come into play, because I'm going to take that energy advantage away from you, right? Because if I can make that match slower and shorter, then I'm going to have the energy to use my advantage against you throughout the duration of the match.
Right. So I think that's pretty comprehensive. I think we covered a lot of, you know, what I think can be covered as far as that is.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that exchange there, because like I did not have that in my head going into it. I wasn't like, well, I'll say this and I'll say that. It just like was like coming. So that was good.
Yeah. Well, you know, it helps to like, you know, do it, to workshop it together, you know.
Yes. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. So thanks for being on the video. See you next time. Thanks for watching the video. Have Coach Mike back next time, and we'll do all the subscribing and all that stuff, and we'll see you later.